Okay, so what is authenticity? How do you know you're being authentic? How do you know you're living in alignment with your true self? How do you know you're living out of alignment with your true self? And what does it mean to be authentic in this world? Let's dive in. So, for me, authenticity is something that you feel, and it is linked to confidence, it's linked to boundaries, and it's linked to your values massively. So everyone has their own truth. You have a truth that is completely different to the truth of your parents, the truth of your family, the truth of your friends. You may align on certain values, which is why you are friends, and you may align with some people that you work with if you work at a workplace, a company, and normally you're drawn to people with the same values as you, but no one has exactly the same set, never. And it's often the case that you will start to become more and more authentic as you wake up, as time goes on, and as you start to remember who you really are, because you've known all along. It's just that you've been conditioned since birth with everybody else's agenda. And this is through school, this is through people thinking that they know what's best for you based on their own truth. Massive companies, governments, corporations, and their self-serving ideals such as greed or lust or whatever they're selling, whatever they want to get money for, they're pushing their own agenda on you, as in you're being marketed at, you're being advertised to, in order to act in the way that they want you to. And this is happening since birth. So, you know, when you're born, you're a little baby, you're a blank slate, ultimately, kind of. And you get a sense, you can, as an adult, you can get a sense of who you really are by reflecting back to who you were as a child, when that conditioning wasn't as strong as it is now. So think about when you were 10, around the age of 10, what did you love doing? What did you enjoy? What were you drawn to then? When you're an adolescent, what were you drawn to? For me, I was always drawn to magic, and I was always drawn to nature and animals, being outside, and I was always thinking about philosophy and the bigger picture. And I remember looking up at the sky and the clouds and thinking, what the hell is that? How is that even there? And thinking about the fact I was thinking, and metacognition, as I know it to be called now, which blew my mind. But that was who I was when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that's who you were then. Thinking about who you were then is the same as who you are now, minus all the conditioning. And so as you start to slowly wake up and remember who you are, things that you do or people you have around you or certain behaviours that you've been doing will start to feel wrong. You'll start to feel like they're not right, it doesn't sit well with you. And you might feel that in your heart, you might feel it in your gut, you'll feel it somewhere in your body. And it starts off, and also in your mind, it will start off as a niggling thought, a niggling, maybe a sense of cognitive dissonance. I don't want to be doing this. You know, it could be a relationship with alcohol, it could be a relationship with food or eating meat, or maybe shopping in a certain way. And it might be that a lot of other people are coming to the same realization at the same time, so that there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of consciousness around it, such as maybe the veganism movement has maybe sparked it in you, and it might suddenly start to feel, no, I don't feel right eating this way anymore. Drinking alcohol, there's a huge alcohol-free movement happening, and maybe for you, you're waking up and it doesn't feel right for you to drink alcohol anymore. But then you go into this state of cognitive dissonance because you are against who you used to be, and you're against maybe the agenda of your friends or the people around you or everyone else that is still drinking, or the huge narrative that exists that alcohol is normal and drinking is part of socializing and it's harmless and blah blah blah. So then you have to live in this state of dissonance for a while, where you're waking up to your truth and this idea of, no, that doesn't feel right. But then there's that old conditioned behaviour and that conditioned way of being, and your memories of, well, it's always been this way, and I've always hung out with those people, and I've always drunk that, and I've always, you know, everyone does it. So then you have to break through that dissonance, which can be quite uncomfortable, and you may go into a bit of isolation for a while, but you emerge feeling way more peaceful and way more true and way more real, and then you can bring more of your authentic self to the world, and in turn give others permission to be their authentic self. So this can also happen in things like shopping, as I mentioned before. So if you're aware of the big movement around climate change or protecting the planet, and you start to feel that fast fashion isn't for you anymore, and then you start to become more intentional about what you buy. Maybe you only buy secondhand, or maybe you want to buy less and buy better, or maybe you want to buy from conscious places where they treat their animals, their people, and the planet well in the production of their clothing. And so you live this way for a while, and it feels really good. And then something happens, and you're forced to venture out of that. So, for example, I was in London on Saturday, and it was freezing, and I had forgotten to bring with me some gloves or a hat, and I was really cold. But I've been living this value of kindness in the way that I don't buy fast fashion. Haven't done for about a year or more. Only buy secondhand. Love things like Vestiaire Collective or eBay, charity shops, of course, and or investing in nice pieces. And it's interesting that, so I was noticing my thoughts around it and thinking, well, this, I really want to go into this shop on the High Street in Oxford Street and buy some gloves and a hat because I'm freezing. But it's unintentional. It's not, I haven't thought about it, I haven't researched it. I know that this company isn't probably going to be the best. It's probably not that conscious. It's pumping out loads of stuff, accessories, and basically crap that the planet doesn't need. But I'm going to be freezing if I don't, and I don't really have time to go and research, where's a conscious place that's within distance and time that I have right now. So of course we're never going to be truly 100% authentic. We're always going to be kind of veering fluidly in and out of our authentic alignment, and I think that's okay if it's done with a level of awareness of self-compassion and just awareness that it's okay to do that, and nothing's ever perfect. We're always imperfectly perfect. So it's very much closely related to your values. If you do some values work and you get to know what your true values are, your 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever is right for you, core values, then you will know then you'll get a deeper understanding of why you act in the way you do. It gives you a sense of knowing your why, knowing your reasons, knowing your motivation. So why does it feel good to not buy fast fashion? Because I value kindness. Why does it feel good to eat vegan? Because I value kindness. And that extends to the kindness of the planet and the kindness of animals. And also the kindness towards myself and my body. Because I know that eating vegan is way better than, plant-based is organic, and it's not always organic, but it's real food. It's whole foods, it's plants. It's not eating something that's dead and decaying. It's not involving the harm of animals. And it also applies to things like spending. So, I think it was Joe Biden that said, have a look at your bank statement and you'll know what your values are. And this is great because most of the time we spend money on things that we value, whether or not you want to admit that they're your values or not. And if you start to feel a certain way, maybe regret or shame or guilt after you've spent money on a certain thing, it's probably because it's not aligned with your values. So when you get really intentional about your spending, and you just start to feel way more authentic in that sense as well, and you have more money, which is great. And then boundaries comes into it. So you're going to have to become a lot better at saying no. If you want to be more authentic, you have to become better at saying no to people with their own agendas, because they're going to want to try to convince you that their truth is the right way, just as I am probably doing to you now. It's about you listening to yourself, listening to your feelings, your heart, what your heart is telling you, what your experiences have been telling you, connecting the dots, and tuning into when you feel the most excited and the most real and the most at home, if that makes sense, the most at peace, and knowing that that's the way for you. And it's okay to say no, because again, saying no gives gives you permission to be authentic, which then gives them permission to be authentic to themselves as well. And sometimes it will just keep knocking for ages. It will be like this little voice that keeps knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking until you say, okay, and you answer the door, you let it in. And then when you let it in, you're like, oh, why didn't I do that before? It feels so good. It's just fear. It's just edge of your comfort zone. Growth is always, discomfort causes growth, and growth is uncomfortable. But no grit, no pearl. And that's just how it is. Quite a lot of people I work with, they're in the wrong job, and they wake up to that and they start to think, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? And when you start to get a real sense of mortality and that time is finite, it's great. It's uncomfortable because it's a huge wake-up call. But when you start to get that sense, oh my God, I'm running out of time, that's when you know your authenticity is calling you, and you're being pushed, and you're being pushed in the right way, in the right direction. And it's your emotions that are always redirecting you. So tune into how you're feeling. Why do you feel angry? You feel angry because something has to change. Anger wants change. You feel shame because you're acting out of alignment with your values. You feel regret because you're acting out of alignment in some way with what's right and true for you. For example, if you gossip about people and then later you feel, I feel a bit bad for saying that, because it's not your true self. It's not your true self. It might feel good in the moment in some weird animalistic fear-based way, but it's really not your true self. It's really not what feels right, because that emotion of shame or guilt is telling you that. So you're always being redirected, and if you're just too distracted, you won't be able to listen to that. And distraction is huge. Distraction from authenticity comes in the form of, yes, other people's agendas. It comes from intoxication, such as drugs and alcohol, which is put out there as normal, but it's really not. There's a really good book called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, where she talks about how alcohol turns off the dash light. If your body is a dashboard in a car, for example, and it's sending you little lights, little dashboard lights, if something is wrong, if you drink or take drugs or intoxicate, you're basically unable to see those lights on that dashboard. So you don't know. You're not going to be able to hear that authentic calling. You're not going to be able to hear and tune in really to what those emotions are trying to tell you, and what those experiences and those patterns and those repeated thoughts are trying to tell you. So you have to remove the distraction of alcohol and drugs. You also have to remove the distraction of your smartphone and Netflix and mass media that we're always consuming by the bucket load. It's being thrown at us. If you're fixated on watching loads and loads of that, which feels good, we get our dopamine from it. It feels good to be connected to other people. But it's such a massive distraction. And it takes hours of our time and so much of our attention and our focus and our memory. So you have to watch your consumption of that as well. And another way to know if you're on the right path, or your things are going right, or you're authentic, is synchronicity. So coincidences, things happening that seem random but are too random to be anything. Just too random to be a coincidence. Yesterday I was going to make this video, but I felt really tired and felt really a little lethargic, and I just wanted to have more guidance from my higher self before I made the video. And yesterday I was drawn to the song popped into my head, The Colours of the Wind from Pocahontas, and I listened to it and I read the lyrics, and it really moved me, and I started to read about a little bit more about shamanism and then Taoism, which is what I'm really interested in. And then I was like, this is so interesting, and I'd love to make a video about that. But first I have to do one on authenticity, but I just don't feel like it. So I started reading a bit about Taoism, and it said, you know, you've got three choices. You either fight how you're feeling and try and control how you're feeling and go against it, or you ride the wave of how you're feeling and go with it, or you get carried by the wave of how you're feeling, so you just allow it. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I looked behind me at my bookcase, and not even on a book, but on a OneStream, you know, the broadband provider, Wi-Fi provider, OneStream, on the side of the box it says go with the flow. So that is synchronicity. I was reading about Taoism, I was reading about, you know, being carried by energy, and then I saw that go with the flow, and then I realised, okay, today is not the day to make the video. I'm going to surrender to my experience, surrender to this feeling of lethargy, and just rest. And I know that it will pass, and then tomorrow I'm going to feel better. And that is being authentic. That's just a little overview of what it means to be authentic, and I'll leave it there. But I'll leave my website below, and I'm available for coaching if you'd like some one-to-one coaching. I've got a few packages available on my website, so please feel free, drop a comment, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.